Jesus Christ!
To another episode of Two Movies Enter, One Movie Leave, the podcast where we have two movies fighting each other every week to see which one will come out on top. On this week's show, we're going to have Signs versus Mars Attack. Two movies about alien invasions, or are they about alien invasions? We'll discuss that as we go on, where we have Signs directed by M. Night Shyamalan, which is a very intimate look at an alien invasion. Came out the same year as Independence Day. No, it didn't. That was Mars Attack. I'm a fool. I'm wrong. I have to go and punish myself now.
Congratulations.
I apologise. But it's more of a... Yeah, I suppose it's like the difference between what was it? There was like those fucking Armageddon, and there was another one that came out with Morgan Freeman that year about meteor hitting Earth.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what it was called.
Deep Impact or something.
That was it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're the only person in the world that remembers that. But yeah, this is more. It's just an alien invasion from a family perspective.
Yes.
And it deals with like the whole invasion. I suppose loss of faith, grief, and family during such a trying time. And then with Mars Attack, it's Mars Attack based on a fucking trump cards game. Or is it Trump? Top Trumps. It is. Top Trump. Say it enough times. Trip Trop. On a card game from the 50s or the 60s. Which is, it's basically Gremlins with Martians, directed by Tim Burton. An all-out comedy. So I know it kind of like probably our Versus series, it's to someone with like a healthy mind, it probably seems as if it's no sense why to have those. Maybe it'd make more sense to have an Independence Day against Mars Attack, and maybe that thought occurred to me after I was reading up on Mars Attacks and saw that it came out the same year as Independence Day, but
here we are.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I suppose, which one do you want to talk about first?
I don't know what I mean. I suppose we watched Sign first, and then we watched well, obviously, historically, we probably watched Mars Attacks.
Yeah,
first,
we talk about Signs first,
yes,
yeah.
But yes, recently we watched Signs.
Yeah. I think it's one of those weird films. Both of them were actually weird films insofar as I've seen them in the cinema. Yeah, you're probably the same. Yeah. You definitely saw Signs in the cinema because we saw that together. Then we would have seen them a few times, but then haven't looked at them probably in the last 20 years.
Yeah, just relegated to the dusty DVD shelves.
Yeah, whereas with Signs, it's M. Night Shyamalan's, I think, third, maybe fourth film. Came out after like success of the fucking...
I See Dead People.
Yeah, I gotta think, like, you have to forgive me with things like I'm getting old, my memory is not...
That's not right. You're just an idiot.
The Sixth Sense. I think he had Lady in the Water. Was that one with Bryce? It was like considered a massive flop, and there was Unbreakable.
Oh yeah.
But I must go back to rewatching Lady in the Water.
The plants that were all
The Happening.
Yeah.
That was terrible. That was like it. We'll have to cover it at some stage on the podcast. But if we can find another, I suppose there's Data Triffids and things.
Two Marky Mark films.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. But it's like Marky Mark just forgets how to act in it. And then you look at enough M. Night Shyamalan films and you see that there's kind of a thing that these people that are quite good actors under his direction
Sometimes
just lose the ability to act. And it's like, is he doing this? Or is this is his directorial
style, maybe, yeah.
Or maybe he's just like, he doesn't like to get too in actors' faces, like freaking, like on fucking The Exorcist with hitting people and fucking
slapping them around on boards.
You know, that he's just like, oh well, look, or maybe he was scared of Marky Mark and he's like, he's acting is terrible, and if I say that to him, he's going to kick me in the head like Vietnamese and his takeaway.
Yeah, Jesus.
that might seem like a rant, but if you look up Mark Wahlberg's criminal history,
Yes, it's a bit of a dark past, all right.
Worse than fucking kind of like, well, I suppose some people could say that Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch is a criminal.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Signs.
Yes.
It's, in my opinion, I think it's probably his best film.
Yeah.
I really like it. I forgot how much I liked it.
Well, it's got
Hopefully rewatched
two
it.
great actors in it, and of course this is before, I suppose, Mel Gibson probably went off the rails a bit as well. It's got Mel Gibson, it's got Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Very young Joaquin Phoenix as the younger brother, and two absolutely terrific kids as well.
Rory Culkin, also known as Macaulay Culkin's younger brother, and oh god, I can't remember the girl. She ended up going on being in fucking Zombieland.
Okay, I didn't know
As
that.
well. She was like really, really small.
Yeah, she was very, very
kid in this.
young.
What's her name? Abigail Breslin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like really, it's really the four of them. Like there's people from
It is.
outside show up every now and again, and
Yeah, and they see bits through the telly and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's
what's
mostly
happening in
through the
outside
telly.
world, but they're living in a kind of a rural, isolated enough farmhouse surrounded by crops, and of course, sort of that's the whole sort of the first kind of thing we see is that there's crop circles
circles, yeah.
in their crops, and they go out and discover it, and they're like, what the actual shit, like.
yeah, and it's the it kind of lets you know kind of very early at the start. This is the thing with like how good a director M. Night Shyamalan is, and I think people got caught up in the whole it's a twist thing with him, and kind of overlooked for a long time how good he is at directing. Whereas with other people there'd be this big long exposition about how Bruce Willis, what the fuck, Mel Gibson, sorry,
Whatever you want, yeah.
how Mel Gibson lost his wife, and he was
He used to be a minister.
Minister, yeah, and
absolutely.
that
Now he's
he's
no
a-
longer a man of the cloth.
and they do that like in the first couple of shots where it shows a picture of him and he's like get up in his cosplay as a churchman and the wife, and there's like a space on the wall where a cross used to be. And there's a few kind of like
Yeah,
visual
and it's just like
telltale
literally
things like
straight
that.
away you kind of go, I get this. Now, of course,
Yeah.
the actual explanation kind of comes along as it's sort of you have flashbacks as to when he's
Yeah, it's only near the end of the film,
Yeah.
and it's the same with Merle, his brother, played by Joaquin Phoenix. And apparently that was originally going to be played by Mark Ruffalo.
Right.
Because Mark Ruffalo was in a movie with Rory Culkin, where the two of them, that M. Night Shyamalan thought that they got on really well and they'd be good as brothers. Well, not brothers, but like, uncle and
nephew.
yeah, and so I think it was a great kind of call getting Joaquin Phoenix, and like Joaquin Phoenix I think is kind of becoming one of my favourite actors.
Really?
Yeah, more Seam and stuff. Well, like it's going to be a hard thing to beat Bruce Campbell now, but
But that's the thing, he kind of, even though he's very distinctive himself, he kind of sinks into the characters. Like, I mean, do you remember he was in like Gladiator, and he was that terrible shit of a fucking Caesar, basically, And, more recently, I suppose, the Joker as well, it's completely sinks into that.
how did he win an Oscar? I don't know. Don't matter what Oscars. Oscars are worthless anyway. But as well, there was I Was Never Here, or was it You Were Never Really Here? I can't remember the one where he's basically a paedophile hunter. Like going after like Epstein kind of a thing, high level paedophiles and stuff. That he was fucking brilliant in that. Like, I mean, this is the thing, is he just shows up in really weird film, but it's rare to see him in a bad film.
Absolutely.
There's that Ari Aster film, the guy who did Hereditary, called Beau is Afraid, I think it's called. And it's after tanking completely, but people that have seen her saying it's fucking like Joaquin Phoenix is amazing in it.
I must have a look at it, so.
But yeah, it's a really strong cast, and Bruce Willis and him hold the film.
Bruce Willis?
Are you Bruce Willis on me, man? I think I was just reading the thing about
Sixth Sense.
well, no, yeah, but it was the other day when it was a thing about what Frankie Boyle was talking about. Remember I was saying to you about how
Something about Die Hard.
Die
Let's
Hard
listen
is
to that,
basically Alien from the alien's point of view, where Bruce Willis is the alien going around in all the air vents.
Yeah,
and stuff.
true, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fucking fantastic. It's shot gorgeously. Like even like it's. I think it's becoming rarer and rarer with movies where you can say, well, not even easily, but like that there is anything more than just the surface to a film.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, there's a lot going on with it, where it is just, it comes across as being an alien invasion movie, but there's a whole lot of stuff about fate and its spirituality.
Family.
I suppose destiny.
Community. Forgiveness. Guilt.
Forgiveness, yeah. And it doesn't do, like, he meets the fella who, the story, I suppose, his wife got killed in a car crash.
She was out walking there one night, and a guy just fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah,
M. Night
Shyamalan.
That guy happens to be M. Night Shyamalan.
And I bet you didn't pick up on the whole thing. Remember at the start, the dog gets really sick. He doesn't get sick. He's like, and one of the kids says, "Oh, maybe we should ring the vet," and he goes, "No, I ring doctor or whatever." And and they go, "Why do you want to bring him to a normal doctor?" And this is how good the film is, that it doesn't actually tell you.
Yeah, you have to figure it out for yourself. Yeah.
Because they show later on in the movie, it shows where he goes to the guy's house that killed his wife, and it says his name and veterinarian underneath it on the sign outside. So you go, "Oh, right, that's why he didn't." But it's a small thing like that. And I got, I can't remember, I think it might have been Chris Duckman, a film or video that he did years ago about it, because Chris Duckman, he's the guy with the red hair that he's always lit by kind of like a blue light behind him. He does movie reviews.
What?
Never mind. People know.
Okay.
But I think it was Chris Duckman kind of pointed that out in a thing. To give him credit for stuff, because I don't want to sound like we're kind of plagiarising people.
But I copped that.
No, you didn't. Why did you say it like?
It's not something I thought was hugely important, like.
That's massively important. Why didn't you tell me? What else are you hiding from me?
Lots of things. Rips face off. I was the I was the monster in the fairground all along.
Yeah. But there's like, if you're looking at imagine looking at that in a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I know.
That could be.
It'll be signposted like fucking 7 ways from fucking Sunday.
And it'll be he's a vegetarian. But and fucking, where are we going with it? Oh yeah, but it's just the masterfulness of Shyamalan. With things, it's really have to go and look at more of these, because I keep forgetting, because it is just a thing. I think fucking Adult Swim's the thing with Seth Green did Robot Chicken, yeah, because that started doing it. It's a twist. Thing, and I think that's just stuck in, particularly our generation who would have been looking at Robot Chicken, and the younger generation, and it's kind of like, oh, you can't look at an M. Night Shyamalan movie because it's just all about the twist. And I was like, there's no twist in this.
No, there isn't. Well, I suppose everyone was like, oh, the twist is like water all along. And I was like, that's not really a twist though. But
there is, I suppose we're after kind of summarising the plot to it, where it's like, it's really about when the aliens do invade, they're trapped in the house, and it's apparently it was inspired a lot by Night of the Living Dead, which you can see but it doesn't dwell too much on the actual invasion, because the whole film's, I suppose, timeline is only 3 days long. So it's probably a day when the aliens attack, and then they mysteriously disappear. But there was Cosmic Podcast maybe, or something like that they're called. I'm sure if you type in "science isn't about aliens," you come across this, and their theory, which fucking makes perfect sense to me, is that it's not actually about aliens, they're demons. There's an awful lot of things in it, so it's not necessarily water that kills him, it's holy water that kills him.
Because of course he's the minister.
He's a reverend, and the little girl always asks him to get the water. She never pours the water, it's always he pours the water. You look at them as well, they're naked, like they're like the aliens in a Mars Attack wears more clothes. At least they wear little red underpants.
Little underpants, and a helmet.
Yeah, they didn't say this, but there's a famous painting from, going back hundreds of years, of the Pope meeting with a demon. And kind of, it's a bit ambiguous whether he signed a contract with it or he's like saying, get out of it.
Yeah.
But the demon in that looks very like the demons. Or the aliens.
Oh my God, that's the twist. They're not aliens, they're demons.
But as well, if you remember at the start of there was a point in the movie where he's talking about them when they were born, and he was saying, when you were born, everyone said you looked like an angel. So...
And she's the one that sort of has all the water all around, and
So, and as well, like the aliens as well. What I quite liked about it was it seemed to be like if they were aliens or demons or whatever, it's a very quick attack. They kind of attack, but as well, it starts off with people in the Middle East have found an ancient way of fighting these. So it's like they obviously came from before. So maybe they could have been interpreted as demons. They were extraterrestrials, but they were interpreted as demons thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, and water did work, and that's where holy water came from or whatever. But there's quite a bit, I think, to that. But what I was saying, it's that they come down and at first people are like, oh, they're here for resources, and it's like, what's the resource? It's people. They're drugging and abducting people, so they're obviously going to eat them or you don't really know what
things.
Yeah, and it's like that with the young fella as well, that it's what gives Mel Gibson back his fate is that the young fella has asthma and he has an asthma attack, so it closes off his airways, so he avoids
can't get the poison gas that
and then the wife on her dying words was like, tell Merle to swing or whatever it was, and
swing away.
So, and as well that he was like, oh, it just always felt like I had to swing, I couldn't. So if he had to go on and become a pro baseball player, none of this, he wouldn't have been there. They would have got killed. He wouldn't have had his baseball bat up on the
wall. Yeah, exactly.
So it's dealing a lot with destiny, I think, or kind of what would be the word for it? A divine kind of intervention or divine.
Yeah, or I suppose just sort of their fate, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Like everything has to go in a certain way, and everything is predestined to happen, as you said. Yeah,
and there's a whole thing that it's a bit like Grant Morrison meta with M. Night Shyamalan, he's the director of the movie and he plays the guy that kills
the wife,
Mel Gibson's wife accidentally, and he's even talking about saying, I drove that road 100 times before, I was tired loads of times before, I don't know why it was that stretch of road, it felt like it was meant to be. And he's like begging for forgiveness, and I think in the lesser film they would have caved into it and Mel Gibson, oh, I forgive you, and there would have been music playing and he would have felt like a better person, embrace his fate, or he's just like he's trying to do the right thing. He doesn't forgive him because he can't.
Exactly. He's killed the wife.
He knows it's an act,
but you can try and rationalise it away, like you know yourself as an accident, but how do you ever get over that, like, and open your heart for forgiveness?
Exactly. You don't. But like movies make it a lot of time. It's a very quick.
And it's all very cookie cutter, and it's like, now we're at this part, now this has happened. Yay, it's all happy.
And it doesn't dwell on it. Even there's a bit where he sees them at first in town when they're having pizza. And there's a whole, I suppose, spiritual thing as well, nearly like where meals are very important. And
the family all sit down together to break bread as such.
But they, like in the Bible and in religious texts, they're always very important. Like you have the Last Supper, and like their version of the Last Supper was, it's like, oh, whatever meal you want.
Yeah.
Nearly like a fucking
potatoes,
death row meal.
If you want cinnamon buns, cinnamon buns.
But that's where the whole family falls apart. And like Rory Culkin is, I hate you, and you're fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. That's what, like, it is like, these two kids are grieving their mother, like, but they have kind of a father who is not particularly there for him as such. Obviously he loves him and he cares about him, but he's not able to express or kind of support them in their grief either as well. So I suppose it's a very difficult thing for kids to process.
And it deals with it so well. So, like, there's a lot of films that are about that and solely about that, and they will ham it up to the last. Whereas this, it's not. It's like one or two scenes on it, or like it goes to show, like, poor Mel Gibson. But Mel Gibson, after people probably might remember there was stuff about Jews and fucking other racist things that he was coming out with and tirade against
sort of, I think
people.
He had a terrible altercation with his then girlfriend or wife at the time as well. Everything just seemed to fall apart and go down the absolute drain. Like,
thing, he's kind of I suppose he hasn't really been in any. He's still in movies, but he's not like the Mel Gibson that he was. Whereas before, like Mel Gibson was in a movie.
Then it's probably South Park as well, because they had that fucking depiction of him just go crazy in his underpants.
Mad Mel. But like, you forget how good an actor he is, and he really does. He adds an extra layer of humanity to character that someone and as well, I know we're probably making it sound like a very serious movie, which it is, but it's very funny though. Yeah,
there's huge moments of like just sort of humour that just comes out of nowhere. Like he walks back into the house and like all three of them are sitting there wearing tinfoil hats, looking really concerned, like, and it's just a really sort of a moment of levity, I suppose, and all the sort of like, oh no, there's an attack coming kind of a thing, you know.
But this is the thing with Joaquin Phoenix as well, that people have only known from, say, certain films from the last while, that he comes, like, he is a serious actor, but he's really, really funny in it.
Yeah.
And he's nearly like Woody Harrelson to a degree out of Cheers, where there's just something immensely likeable about him in it. Or he's nearly like an Adam Sandler character in real life, you know, where it's not over the top.
Yeah.
And he gets on really well with the kids. There's so much going on in this movie, but there's not going on at all. And then for the special effects,
yeah,
the
like, that's the
alien-
thing. Like, I mean, what I thought was hilarious is like they don't fuck around. It's like straight away. They're just like, boom, there's fucking an alien outside the window, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Walking past her. Oh look, there's a hand coming under the door. And after chopping off a few fingers.
But it is back to the don't show much thing, like with Joe.
Yeah, no, you don't see a big fucking, you know, invasion coming down out of the sky. There's not hundreds of aliens running around. Right now.
And even the way when
they
they
do show them to you, but it's only like the fleeting glimpses and stuff. Like
and even when they show the alien at the end close up, it's in shadows. It's like the light is behind them. And I think that they just show enough with the scar on the head.
It's the fingers.
Oh, the fingers, yeah. To show that it was an alien from earlier on that was locked in.
The vet's pantry, basically, that Mel Gibson ended up like fucking cutting the fingers off when he tried to get in through the door at him. And that was, there you go. So you have to be watching things.
I know, well, sometimes when you're not asleep or after passing out. But it's, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a fucking fantastic movie. It is really, really, really good.
As it feels like nothing happens, but a load happens as well at the same time.
And it flies by. It really, really, really flies by. I've said it probably about 10 times, but I forgot how much I liked the movie. I probably like it more now with having a few years on me.
That's it as well, because I suppose you kind of appreciate the kind of the rural community they have as well, where, you know, sort of the sheriff like brings them down when the wife is, you know, she's pinned against a tree and they're just like, we waited for you, we know, you know, you have to go down and speak to her because the minute we move, like, that's it. It's, you know, basically the car is what's holding her whole body together, and once it moves, that's it, she's, you know, gone. But to have that kind of level, I suppose, of the local knowledge, you know, if this is a big city, like, the cops wouldn't give two shits about it, they wouldn't know who we are, they wouldn't be bothered or anything like that.
And it's well because he's
little,
the reverend.
That's the thing, there's all these little interactions as well where he goes to pick up some medication, and like your one is like,
that scene is so funny. It's the girl working in the pharmacy where she's like, oh, I have to confess, Father, if these aliens aren't coming near the end, I have to go with a clear conscience. And he's like, please, you know I'm not.
Don't call me father, I'm not that anymore. But she just starts listing out everything again. She's like, I swore 31 times. Does calling somebody, what was the word she used?
I can't remember.
I don't know, it was like a fucking ball bag or something like that. She's just
douche.
Does that count as a swear? So it depends on how you're using it. Are you using it about something? She's like, it's 72 then. You know.
But then when she's going on, and then when he meets up with the kids, he's like, I don't want any of you spending any time on
your own with that girl. So whatever the fuck she told him, it was very horrific.
But it's what I think it's telling as well, that he's always referred to as father by people and not reverend. So it's that he's not just like the father to the children.
His own
it's a
children,
big community of people. And the thing with Mel Gibson is he pulls it off as well, where he is believable in that thing. Like Mel Gibson, he always could play really warm characters, people with a lot of depth to.
I said he always seemed to have a mix of gravitas is the wrong word, but like he, you know, sort of, as you said, like a kind of depth, and sort of, you know, there's a lot going on behind us and a lot of emotion and all that.
And he wasn't a fucking like a method actor either. So I think it kind of came quite enough, because from his earliest movies, like there was one where was that Sam, I think it was an Australian movie that came out probably a little bit after Mad Max, where he played someone who was mentally challenged, who was in a relationship with an older woman, and it kind of dealt with that. But I've never seen one who was really young, but he was fantastic in that. So, you know, he always had the acting chops, where it's like starting off in action movies and then like Lethal Weapon, but he always used to do those as well as these
this more serious kind of
and it's well, he won Oscars, I suppose, for Braveheart, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm terrible. I can never remember Oscars or anything like that, but like there's a load of like, Bird on a Wire and all those kind of films as well.
God, I forgot Bird on a Wire,
Yeah.
with Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, which are not your, they were kind of action, but still had a lot more going on to it than just action, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Tango and Cat. No, that was Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you got confused when you mentioned Goldie Hawn there.
Sure, I think Mel Gibson was originally meant to play the comedian in a version of Watchmen.
Yeah, I think so. I remember hearing that as well.
Yeah,
And
he
that
would
would
have
have been fairly cool.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan was a perfect
When he
choice for
looks
it.
like the comedian,
But
yeah.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I suppose, wouldn't have been around at that stage. It was
Yeah, so you
when
need to
Terry
somebody a
Gilliam
little
was
bit
going to do it,
unknown,
wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Signs, absolutely fantastic movie. If you're listening to this, I presume
Yeah,
you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, like, I hope we haven't really spoiled anything about it. But
there's aliens. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Or are they demons? But I'm just blown away by looking at it again. I remember seeing it in the cinema and probably not thinking, that's all right. Like,
Yeah,
I
so
like
you-
aliens, but
Yeah, but you see, you would have been a lot younger at that stage,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't have had, I suppose, the life experience either at that stage. You'd be like, stupid family. Who cares about stupid wives and children?
I think
and
as
stuff?
well that the amount of shit movies that have come out over the last 20
yeah, that's
years.
true. When you look back, you can go, God, that was actually
Yeah.
fairly polished.
Like, I quite like some of the Marvel movies, but unfortunately, I think the success, I won't say the Marvel movies are to blame for it. I think the success of the Marvel movies are to blame for a lot of shit films coming out, because this always happens where people try to replicate things. So what you had in the 90s, I think, and the early 2000s, you had a lot of quite not serious movies, but like well-made movies
and
that had
as
good
you said,
acting
nice,
in it.
nicely
Yeah.
shot, decent cinematography,
Yeah.
decent sound score. Everything kind of properly worked rather than just like, I just have a load of explosions and
Yeah,
noise.
so
and
the lower budget movies were trying to emulate those movies. Like after Tarantino got big, fucking every movie wanted it. So it was this whole thing, we have to have like a really good script, and it's like, oh no. Then Marvel, it was like people kind of took away from Marvel. Not that like a lot of the Marvel movies are about. That's just like explosions, throwing a bit of stupid comedy, a bit of stuff, break the fourth wall or whatever, and people love that. So like if they remade Schindler's List now, it'll be fucking
God. Yes.
it'll be Oscar Schindler kind of like making a quick
as Iron Man or something.
Yeah.
Or Dark Man.
What?
Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah, Darkman, yeah. It's like, what? Yeah, so like that's where Signs stands. So I think Signs is pretty hard to beat for Mars Attacks. And spoilers, it probably isn't going to. But yeah, getting into Mars Attacks, totally different movie. It's Tim Burton's version of the Top Trumps cards, really, where it's kind of like it's just aliens, gremlins.
Yeah.
There's fucking no plot to this.
No,
at all.
they just basically they want to invade the Earth, and
Yeah.
they're just these like fucking heinous little creatures, where they're just like, we come in peace.
Yeah, and
they're
they're fucking hilarious looking.
Yeah.
You forget when you, and I think it's because at the time he wanted to do it stop motion. But the studios were, no, we have to do it with. I think it would have been kind of cool with stop motion animation in it, but with it probably would have held up a lot better 20 years later.
Yeah.
Although the 3D effects, they hold up all right.
A lot of the effects within the film are not so bad. The opening credits are absolutely appalling, and probably designed to be so, I suppose, where it shows all the sort of the flying saucers gathering all around the Earth and getting ready to invade kind of a thing. But I suppose the effect of like, sort of the dog human head hybrid type thing, they hold up okay.
But I think the most important thing, the aliens, the Martians,
they look
pretty
like,
good,
they look like cartoons come to life. That's what they're like. They're just
it's like
these,
a Looney Tunes cartoon, isn't
that's
it?
exactly it. It's like these bulging eyeballs and kind of like skull-like features and giant brains and skinny little bodies, and you could see him being in The Simpsons or in Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something like that.
Oh, easily. It was Animaniacs. But it seemed very much of that time period as well. Sure, Animaniacs
Everything
would
all
have been around
wacky
it,
and stuff. Yeah.
So I think it's probably Tim Burton's last good movie as well. It was like he did Ed Wood just before this.
Yeah.
So you can see he was probably still in that mindset.
Yeah, the sort of the B-movie alien invasion type thing. Yeah.
And like, I forgot the start of it, and the start of it really is just a message to say, like, this is what this film is about, where people are like, oh, I smell barbecue. Where's the barbecue coming from? And then it's like hundreds of cows on fire just run down the road.
Stampeding down the road, yeah.
And a UFO takes off behind them. So that sets the thing kind of going, these aliens are just assholes.
Yeah.
There's no thing to it. And of course, the build, I think the build-up takes too long, where they're establishing there's like tons of characters.
That's the thing, they have all these different strands. They have like Jack Black plays this sort of meathead sort of, you know, army wannabe, and they go through his family with the grandma and the brother, and you know they have Michael J. Fox and his partner, and they're newscasters. They just
Sarah Jessica Parker,
and they go through sort of each individual strand, and sort of they have to keep on dipping back into all these individual strands.
And like most of the strands go absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with it, and as well, I'd say maybe they kind of knew they had a weak film where it was like, we don't have a plot, we need to get as many A-listers,
basically, big names in. Yeah.
So like Michael J. Fox is in it for maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds out of it, and
then gets vaporized.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are they're not in it too much. But like the cast is fantastic, and Jack Nicholson plays 2 roles in it, and like we were only talking about this, I didn't know anything about it, that Jack Nicholson in the early 2000s.
Yeah, apparently I was reading Reddit, I think I was reading it on recently, they were saying like, oh, he's a bit of a past as well, like there were stories came out and they were published in like reputable newspapers at the time as well about him beating a prostitute
in the
so
2000s, wasn't
it? I think it might have been actually the year 2000. Beating prostitutes so badly that he left one of them brain damaged, and I think he ruptured another woman's breast implant or something. He beat her so badly. But that's, you're kind of saying, like, sure, Jesus, at the time it probably would have been like, sure, what are you going to do? Like, they're sex workers, who cares? Kind of a thing, you know, because I don't remember it being a big thing at the time.
I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it.
Whereas, I mean, if that came out nowadays, oh my God, like, he'd be in jail and cancelled, and, you know, immediately there'd be a huge outcry, but it just seems to be like,
you look at the difference as well. There was always this thing where certain people seem to get a pass, and Jack Nicholson would definitely be one of those
he had
people.
this whole reputation as being a hellraiser, didn't he? Yeah.
But you compare to, like, say with that news coming out, and quite obviously did nothing to damage his fucking career, although he's kind of close to retirement, I suppose, at that stage. And then Eddie Murphy, who was accused of sleeping with a transgender
and literally, yes, that's
but in the 90s, what? It
was,
late 90s,
sure,
and that seemed to
name Divine Brown because of it,
and that seemed to destroy his fucking, because it was this whole thing about his sexuality.
And I mean, it wasn't even the fact that he was soliciting a prostitute, because sure, Hugh Grant did that as well.
And it did wonders for Hugh Grant's career. Hugh Grant's career took off. But sure, it was the same Bill Clinton. People were a bit indifferent to Bill Clinton. And then the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky came out, and all of a sudden people were, I like that. So people are fucking people were really weird in the fucking 90s with their attitudes. There's that generation.
Well, I suppose South Park, again, to refer back to, is the whole nice. You know, it's kind of like, you know, a male child gets molested by a female teacher, and all the males are just like, nice. You know, it's kind of like, no, it's not.
But there was a horrific double standard, I think, there, and a horrific kind of, because like with Eddie Murphy, it was like, Eddie Murphy didn't hurt anyone, he didn't do anything to anyone.
He might have, broke a fucking local law or something by actually soliciting a prostitute.
But that wasn't the focus on it, because like, Jesus Christ, Hollywood people were doing fucking far worse. That was widely known as well at the time. But we're getting away from Mars Attacks.
Absolutely.
We're turned into E. But yeah, with the actors that are like, there's a massive cast. Tom Jones is probably my favourite.
Yes, of course. He comes in near the end, and it is quite hilarious. And
Lisa Marie, who was showing up in a lot of Timbo, was his girlfriend at the time, and I think she's probably about 20 or 30 years younger than him. Not that's good. But she plays, I suppose, one of the more kind of like visually standout roles in it, where it's like where an alien goes undercover
as a human, this like this voluptuous, gorgeous human, and she's got this big beehive hairdo to cover this
kind of like a 1950s housewife on acid thing.
But it's just the movement. That's it. It's so creepy and so well done. She kind of, the way she moves, she glides, and it is actually very alien the way she does it. So, and you know, sort of the whole way she carries it out, because she doesn't actually, obviously she doesn't talk, she doesn't say anything, but it's just she's kind of chewing on the gum, and you kind of find out later that it's because it's nitrogen infused gum or something, so she could breathe in.
But even with that attack, like really the whole plot, the plot to it is like the aliens come down. People at first, despite one army guy, general, saying, look, they're fucking an invading force, we have to get ready for them. I suppose the first half hour is going, oh no, they're not, they're friendly people.
They're coming in peace.
And they come down and they annihilate people. And then humans are like, oh, maybe we made a mistake.
Yeah, maybe we offended them by releasing the dove at the time.
So like the Martians find this hilarious because they're like, oh my god, they're idiots.
Yeah.
You know,
that's it. So they keep on doing it. They're like, we come in peace, and then just whip out a pistol from behind their back and vaporize.
And even at the end, they're in France, and the French Prime Minister is there. Oh, we're gonna have they're going to sign a peace deal.
Yeah, peace treaty.
No.
Yeah, and then it's like, nope, everyone vaporized. Yeah. But I mean, it's a stupid, fun kind of throwaway, I suppose.
Yeah,
really.
Is,
you know, because it's almost like live action cartoon kind of.
It is, yeah. Really. It is fun to watch. It is a good watch. That's what I'm get. I think the having the star power probably ruined it. I think it was the first flop that Tim Burton had as well. And it didn't feel overly Tim Burton-y either as well, which I think was a misstep on his part. You know, I know he's probably trying new things, but the only thing that felt Burton-y about it was Danny Elfman's music. Danny Elfman's music is fantastic, and it really, really, really is good. But like, I mean, I don't think Danny Elfman's ever done anything bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, I just saw you drifting off going, maybe I don't know about it.
But like with all this A-list casting, the two people who probably are the most standout and the most important people in it that kind of like nearly centre it, like in Signs with the normal family, is Pam Grier and Jim Brown, who plays like an ex-boxer, and he's his wife and the two kids, where there's a lot of focus on them. And like this came out the same year as Independence Day. When it came out, people thought that it was a piss take of an Independence Day, but it isn't. Like neither one of them was aware of the other one's existence. So it was just one of these coincidences that happens quite a lot in Hollywood, like with Deep Impact and Armageddon, like what we talked about. People are saying they didn't know that they even existed. It's just this thing sometimes.
Synchronicity, I suppose,
But like they really are the ones, because Jack Nicholson's president, it just doesn't really go anywhere. They have Natalie Portman as the daughter, which I think is probably
what's her name, fucking as the wife as well.
Oh, Glenn Close.
Yeah, like I mean, it's, you know, there's these huge names and all the rest, but you don't really care about them all that much. You know what I mean? They're just there, and it's like, oh yeah, that's grand, and no one really acts the way you would expect a normal human to act as well. They're
all hamming it up way too much. Like, you can see people are probably having a fucking ball with it, but I don't know, there's just some... I think when I saw it at first, I really didn't like it. I was like, fucking, this was a bit shit. You know? I think by today's standards with comedy, it's alright. It's, you know, the way we say it before, like, how has The Office become an edgy comedy? You know, what way has things gone? Like, you know, that like The Office is edgy. But it's like that with Mars Attack. I think when I get it was like, I just thought that it was one of those films that probably went, I kind of forgot about, but rewatching it, where I did enjoy watching it, but it's not something I think I'd throw on again for a long time. No, I wouldn't say,
and even at the time as well, it wasn't something I would have seen that, I think, in the cinema. I remember seeing it and coming out and going, oh well, you know, fine, whatever, I'm after seeing it. It wasn't something that was like, oh my god, that's fucking amazing. And
like, I mean, just like I was saying, Ed Wood was prior to that, and Ed Wood did really well for Tim Burton, but not on like the Batman level of doing well. I think people went, all of a sudden, he's capable of doing like these small films, and there's a bit of heart and depth to, you know, that he's not wacky. I forgot about Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, I mean, that's a small film with a lot of depth to it, but it's very wacky at the same point, like, you know.
It's very much like that thing that made a Tim Burton movie, with the Danny Elfman score and the whole kind of look to it.
Exactly, these sort of like lovable monsters kind of a thing, I suppose.
I think it's kind of telling that he's going back to another Beetlejuice movie, like fucking 30 years later, because... Like, not that his career is tanked around, but he really hasn't done a good movie in a long time.
Didn't he do that? Was it Big Fish or something like that? Or, you know, those films?
I don't think he did. Maybe he did. I don't. But he did a lot of... Didn't he do fucking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Yeah. You know, there was...
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, Willy Wonka, There's things where you just look at it and kind of go... And he hasn't done like any of his own movies. They've all been other.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, the Willy Wonka one. I don't know. I just found that a bit creepy because you kind of be expected to be really.
You saw that in the cinema with your dad, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I expected it to be a lot more Burton-y, if you know what I mean. It just came off as just Johnny Depp being a bit weird.
Yeah,
it wasn't proper, like, whimsical or kooky or anything like that you normally expect to have, in a Burton film.
I think probably with this not doing well, because I think in Hollywood a lot of times with people, if you do one bad movie, you're kind of fucked a little bit, where they probably won't give you. Yeah. So it might have been a thing that where this didn't do as well as they expected, and they were like, look, you're going to have to do these movies in future if you want to make a movie, which were other people's movies, essentially.
Prove yourself and
maybe you kind of
back.
finish it off, because remember there was a whole, at the time they didn't even call it a reboot, it was a reimagining of Planet of the Apes.
Oh, sure.
Which was like, maybe you should go back and look, maybe it wasn't as bad as remember, but I remember just being horrified by how bad that was.
It was okay, but it was overly long as far as I remember. It was just like, oh god, do we have to?
But like Marky Mark was in it as well, and he was a bit shit. It's like when you compare it to the original Planet of the Apes movies. I think the newer ones, I've only seen the first one. I keep wanting to look at them, but I don't like looking at Planet of the Apes movies because they're always depressing.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the originals, but they were, whereas you kind of go, oh god.
Yeah.
Like the first one ends, the second one ends with like the destruction of the world. They were always very grim.
Yeah.
And there's a TV show. I used to love the TV show.
Did you?
Yeah. People don't seem to remember Landed with Giants as well.
No, I don't remember that at all.
It was like people that were after getting shrunk down by accident, and they were like trying to get their way back to a lab, I think, or something, to get to regrow themselves. So it'd nearly always be a thing where they'd find like a pin and fight an ant,
yeah,
and the shit. But yeah, Mars Attack, it's just I think having all the names in it really hinders it. The cast, it's, I don't know. It's not like Gremlins 2 was a mess.
Yeah, but it's a funny mess.
Yeah, it's meant to be a mess.
And it's meant to be kind of I know it's not really a kids' film, but it is kind of a kids' film. So it's aimed at that whole thing, and it does, it hits everything it needs to do. It's wacky, it's wild, it's Christmassy, it's fun, it's, fucking, the gremlins are like cheeky little fuckers, that kind of thing. No, the aliens, Mars Attacks are cheeky little fuckers as well, and they're probably the best thing about it. But they actually don't spend an awful lot of time with them either as well, which is a bit disappointing. They could have an awful lot more time spent back on, sort of the mothership or whatever.
I think they fuck around too much at the start with the whole thing following. And you can see it with, like I was going to say, with my god, fucking Natalie Portman's character, that she was probably meant to be like a Lydia Deetz thing, or the usual Tim Burton kind of girl kind of thing, like Wednesday Addams character, but they never really developed it.
No, it's just totally sidelined. She just popped up once or twice as the president's daughter, and she was just like, oh, and that was it, like,
She seems to be nearly the only one that's in it that realises it's a piece of shit.
She's a child.
Yeah. And I thought that was funny, see, because she was, I don't know how old she was at the time. I think Natalie Portman is around our age, so she probably would have been mid-teens. And she's quite obviously, she's in that awkward teenage phase with the braces and kind of gangly, where it's kind of like Shelley from South Park.
We seem to be talking about South Park a lot in this episode, actually.
But it's good, but compared to other movies of the same ilk, like the Gremlins 2 or Gremlins, it's not. And like, I suppose if we get down to like in the battle between this and Signs, Signs is the clear winner. Yeah. Even though they're so wildly different.
Yeah, I mean, Signs is very much, it wins out on gravitas and on, sort of development and characterization and everything, really, I suppose.
And Signs is nearly in a way funnier.
Yeah.
Because there's some of the bits in Mars Attacks where it is just that, like, even with the cows on fire, where it's like, it's visually kind of like, what the fuck. But the next time you look at that gag is done. Yeah. That's the thing with a lot of these, it's nearly like a collection of sketches.
Yeah, and they're not even all that kooky or wacky. Like, I mean, comparing it to Gremlins, like, you would actually be fucking, roaring laughing at, like, some of the antics of what the Gremlins are getting up to. And they are stupid, they are funny, but with the with Mars Attacks, it's kind of like, oh, we'll do this gag, and it's kind of like, kind of fell a bit flat. You're kind of like, it's like I breathe it out slightly heavier through my nose. It's not a proper laugh, like,
That's the thing, and I think that the things that we did find funny were obviously bits that we forgot about in the original one, it's nearly like a jump scare. Like a funny version of that where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that or this happened. But like even the character, Jack Nicholson isn't funny in it. And where he's playing that second character with the Las Vegas developer.
He's like a big style developer.
With big
tycoon.
teeth. And he's just...
obnoxious.
He's more like, and he's actually more like the fucking Joker when he's a mixture of the Joker and both roles, where you kind of go, fucking hell, can this guy not act? Is this just his default at this stage? And it probably was in his career, because remember he did that wolf thing.
Oh yeah,
and he basically just played Jack Nicholson in it as well.
With a bit of hair on his face.
And that film could have been a really good movie, but it just...
was not.
Yeah. This movie is bad.
What a great review.
But there's actually, the more we talk about Mars Attack, when you do start kind of analysing it, like the more is fucking wrong with it.
The best scene in it, I suppose, is probably the very last scene where fucking Tom Jones starts singing. It's not unusual.
Tom Jones is the best.
And a load of like woodland animals come out around him,
And he's not an actor.
No.
And it's just how...
He actually has probably the funniest line in the whole thing. They all burst in and he just says, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, that fucking cracks me up every...
in his big Welsh accent.
And then when they're like, oh, she's got an airplane, we can get out. Can you fly now? And he's like, of course! It's just like, why would Tom Jones be able to... But that bit with the... And then it just cuts to black. It's just fucking... That's it. It's over, the movie. Whereas like when they find out the War of the Worlds moment where they find out what kills the aliens, and it's like that yodeling fucking music, then somehow everyone around the world knows, and then it just goes to him getting a medal for it, and you're just like that. Like, I know the movie doesn't need to make sense, but like,
I know, hang the story together some way, sort of fucking logically.
But I'd say they just got to this, either they cut a load out of it, or they got to the stage where they were like, fuck it.
Yeah, we've done enough, that's grand. You get the idea.
Yeah, it take 20, and we should have built something in that there would have been some military guy or some form of communication that they'll meet up and they'll be able to spread that around. Like the way that they did in Independence Day, that they could,
spread the message of how to do it.
Where it's like, but there's no fucking...
Yeah, there's not a lot of logic, and as I said, the best thing about it was probably the actual aliens themselves, and like it was wasted, like sort of they were doing their weird and stupid experiments back on the mothership, where as I said they had fucking Joanne Parker and her little Chihuahua dog, and they swapped the heads over and stuff like that. But like they could have done so much more there, and they're like running around in their underpants, and like stamped into their.
It would have been a better movie for kind of just focusing on them, because as well, it's like the characters on Earth get killed. So like Jack Black's character gets killed within moments. Christina Applegate is in it, and basically you just see the back of her fucking head for a couple of seconds. Which is a massive waste. Like she was,
she still is great. Like,
she's retired now from acting. I think she's got Parkinson's now as well, on top of everything else.
Christ.
But even Michael J. Fox's character, Michael J. Fox would have been at his prime at that stage as well. You fucking have someone like that who's as likeable and funny, you just kill him off.
Yeah.
And I think one of the worst things that to do with the characters as well is they don't make him so unlikable that you're kind of
delighted to see him vaporized.
You're just a bit indifferent to him, or they're not that likable either. Where
there's very few characters in it that you actually kind of that you would warrant to. They're all kind of dicks in their own way.
Yeah.
And even as I said, Michael J. Fox, like, I mean, okay, he kind of he has that heroic moment where he sees like sort of the girlfriend on the ground and he's trying to crawl over to save her. But up to that point, it might as well be a fucking talking broom, like, because it's just he's got no personality. He's got no lines. He's got no character development.
The only person that comes across likeable in it, and the people won't understand this, but I'm sure we'll get slagged for this, is Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan, you're fancy man.
Yeah, but he is the only one that comes across being a likeable idiot.
Yeah.
With it, where you kind of go, oh, don't kill him, but the rest of them, or Jim Brown's character. the ex-boxer, you know. So do you think he has a boxing fight with the aliens at one where he's surrounded by the Martians, and then the camera zooms out and he's like meant to be dead on the ground, but then he shows up at the end going home to Pam Grier and the kids.
Yeah.
So they're the only likable characters
in the
thing, and those kids as well.
Yeah.
They're a bit where like their whole thing with the kids that they keep ducking off school, and they're like
kind of little delinquents kind
shooting
of thing,
game,
shooting
and
games,
then they're like they end up saving the president, but they're given out to where you do kind of go, were these kids better at shooting than like special service?
That's it. They're given out to like fucking, as you said, the special ops kind of going, come on, fucking protect the president, and they're like taking out the aliens themselves.
And there's not even a thing where like the aliens have special armor that make the bullets bounce off them or anything like that, you know, where it's. There's no real kind of consistency throughout.
Yeah, there's not a lot
even
of
for a
sense
stupid
being
movie,
made.
even like something that's stupid as Scary Movie, it has its rules.
Yeah, it has its own internal logic and stuff.
Whereas I think that is as well as the thing that hurts Mars Attack, where like the rules just don't seem to. They keep changing.
Yeah, there are no
but
rules.
not in a good way. Where it is just that like it's like individual sketches nearly, and then the guy who's meant to be likable who saves the day, he's hardly in it.
Yeah,
and he's too quiet to.
To make any kind of an impact.
Matter, but so I suppose really if it's not obvious, like fucking science kicks the shit
really, I suppose.
out of Mars Attacks.
If you want something fluffy and sort of a bit wacky just to like laugh at, well, Mars Attacks.
I think if you'd never seen it, I'd be interested to see what, say, someone who's probably from a younger generation who wouldn't have been around when it came out, what they'd think of it, because it is wacky. I think kids would love it.
Yeah.
Younger kids would really, really enjoy it, because when you're younger, I think when you're younger, you've kind of put plot points together.
Yes, I think it doesn't matter. Yeah,
like,
you do. You have your own imagination and kind of just fill it in and all the rest. And it actually, even though it's incredibly violent, it isn't too gory for kids either, because basically people get vaporized into green skeletons.
Yeah, it is a kids' movie in a way. But it was, at that time there was a lot of stuff where it was like, I suppose The Simpsons would have been at its peak as well for adults.
Yeah. Whereas
like kids loved it, but then it was like then people there's jokes in there for adults as well. That became a thing, wasn't it? Where it's like there's bits in it for everyone. And maybe they were trying to do that with this, but failed.
Yeah.
With a lot, and like I was saying before, Signs is quite funny as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to be putting Signs on as like
comedy for a Friday night or anything like that.
But I think the jokes in Signs or the bits that are funny in Signs actually hold up an awful lot better.
Oh God, yeah. They seem more genuine. It seems like sort of an actual family that are there, and it seems like something you would be having a laugh about yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
And then when the tragic moments happen, and like the thing is to break the unwritten rule in movies where they fucking kill the dogs in it.
Yeah. Which is horrendous. Yeah. It's very upsetting.
But when bad things do happen in Signs, because you're so attached to characters and they're so like
you're
you
very
do go
upset.
fuck it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Mars Attacks, you're like, oh, who cares?
Yeah. Oh, so and so got vaporized. Did he go green or red?
Yeah.
When he got vaporized. That was it.
And that depends. I was paying attention. I think it depends on whether they had like the rifles or the handguns, wasn't it? But yeah, so look, Signs clear winner.
Yeah.
Hammers the shit out of Mars Attack and Tim Burton, and so I suppose even the thing when you to try and make a bigger thing out of it than it actually is, to try and put more meaning on it than there is. If you compare both of their careers going on, M. Night Shyamalan I think Avatar: The Last Airbender was probably, and the Knock on the Cabin Door are probably the only films that he's done that aren't based on his ideas. Although maybe The Happening was based on something else, I'm not 100% sure. But
I think it was based on actual reality.
Yeah. But his movies have been fairly unique, for good or bad, with people kind of like slagging him off. Like he's done his own like with The Devil, I think. I haven't looked at that, and that old thing where he kind of pitched himself from the start as being like Alfred Hitchcock, or that's who he wanted
forged
to be.
his own little sort of furrow, ploughed his own furrow, I suppose. Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people would have wanted to try and fit him into the Spielberg category because they probably wanted another Spielberg, because Spielberg was kind of slowing down with movies. Whereas like M. Night Shyamalan is really our version of Hitchcock.
He's his own thing, hasn't he, really, I suppose. I
think his daughter is directing stuff now as well.
Yeah.
Which is coming from a good category. I don't know. But yeah, Signs is the winner. I think we'll have to do like a fucking Kumite thing where it's like a blood sport thing and kind of have a bunch of alien movies at some stage if we can sit down and look at 8 movies.
Yeah. And just
or maybe we could do just like this where it's like Signs goes on and Signs will face off against
the next alien film.
Yeah.
That'll get very boring though.
Yeah, Signs versus Aliens.
Aliens versus Alien.
Yeah. But yeah, look, thank you very
Indeed.
much for listening.
Yes.
If you made it this far. Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't do that. How come we not talked about that? It's too late to talk about it now though. But that's probably one of the best things about it is they're
exactly.
talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, until next time, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe, leave us a review, would be great. And if you'd like us any movies you'd like to have us doing a face off with, leave a comment somewhere. And we'll see it.
Skywrite it with an aeroplane.
Yeah.
We'll see it.
We'll see it. And we'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll fucking do it. Don't tempt us. Unless it's a movie that we don't really want to watch. But yeah, until next week, goodbye.